was able to thankfully assemble the Avengers, and the product speaks for itself.
And 3, 2, 1, camera move. Stay there, I'll tell you when to move, Jess. 4, beautiful. 1, camera move, and action. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Media Day, Marketing Day, Content Day, whatever you want to call it, has to be one of the most exciting days on any sport creative's calendar, because it's the day where you really get to mess around and flex your creative skills to create some really great marketing content for the sports team you happen to be working with or freelancing for. But it can also be one of the most stressful days as well for creatives, with tight schedules, creative input coming in from all sides, and very high expectations across the board, because it's the main day where marketing and creative content is at the forefront and there are a lot of eyes on you, so it can get pretty hectic. So far in my career, I've had a lot of experience working on many different kinds of media and content days, ranging from when I was doing them by myself working in the college athletics scene, all the way until now, where I've actually gotten to work on media day sets for some professional sports teams, most recently getting to direct the PWHL Toronto's first ever media day hero set. All experiences I've learned so much from, and that I want to share some advice with you guys to help you guys absolutely crush your next media day, whether it's your first one, whether it's your last one. Real practical advice that I've learned through my own experiences that hopefully you guys can take whenever you guys are on set or developing your first media day coming up this year. Before I get started, I do want to say I had the absolute pleasure of working with one of my closest friends and colleagues in the creative industry, in Nicole Shapiro, on this PWHL Media Day. Nicole is a very talented DP. You're probably familiar with her name because she's been on the channel before, and me and her are actually working on a full behind the scenes series, starting with this video about how we developed, shot, and created everything you're about to see with the PWHL Toronto Media Day. I believe my video is the first one in this series, and this should be coming out on Tuesday of this week. Hers should be coming out tomorrow on Wednesday, so I will leave her channel link in the description below. Make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to go subscribe to her, because we are going to be alternating for the next few weeks. And I really hope you guys enjoy this series that we're working on. We are really happy with this project, and we have so much we want to share with you guys. So make sure you keep your eyes out and stay tuned for all those videos. All right, number one tip I want to give you guys: when it comes to media days, do not show up unprepared. There is a saying one of my best friends once told me, and it has stuck with me ever since: proper preparation prevents a piss poor performance. This is kind of an obvious one, but I think it's important to say the more you're actually able to plan out what you're going to be doing on this media day from the start of the day to the end, the more you're able to prep in advance, even physically have gear ready to go, will allow you to get so much more done with the time that you have in these situations. And I will tell you, when you're on a set of any kind, including a media day, I think actually especially a sports media day, time is not your friend, and wasting precious time is the biggest mistake you can make. The more you're able to save yourself time by getting stuff ready in advance, the more you're in tune with what you're going to be doing the day of, the better your results will be overall from your media day. And this goes for all levels: high school, college, professional sports. Doesn't matter, time is of the essence. It's important to make sure your athletes are going to arrive on set, you're ready to go, you get the shots you need to get with them, and they can get out there as quickly as possible. And this isn't even just for them to get in and get out and get on with their days. This is also for you to not have a backlog of 3-4 athletes waiting for the current one to finish. You want to funnel people through as much as possible and as efficiently as possible, so you're not stressed out because you have 3 other people waiting who have to get on with their days as well. It is just purely to save you a lot of headache. What are the things you can prep in advance, you may ask? Literally anything from lighting, camera prep, day of schedule, shot list, your physical set. Anything you can literally have ready to go in advance will help you so much. Media days are not situations you want to run and gun through. They're not things you just want to wing. You want to be ready as much as possible. I know I said that having your set ready can be a huge boon, and in this PWHL experience that we just had, we had the set ready the night before, and that alone saved us hours the morning of. I know that's not really possible for everyone, but even if you're just able to set up your camera rig the night before, have your cards swipe. That will save you 10-15 minutes of doing that when you're on set the day of, that you can then use to problem solve something else that will inevitably come up the day of. For the PWHL Media Day, we only had a week of advance notice, which is not a lot of time, but thankfully me and Nicole were able to pull together as much as possible before the day of. We had a lighting plan, we had a shot list, we had inspiration, we had cameras ready the night before. And we actually took like 2 days in that week ahead of the shoot to go in, test lighting, actually build the set. So when we were there in the morning of, we were like 90% ready to go. And it just gave us a lot more confidence when it came to shooting that day. I'm actually going to bring Nicole on here right now. We sat down and talked about how important the prep was in the success that we had with this media day just a few weeks ago. So when it comes to preparedness...
Wait, start again. I wasn't smiling.
So when it comes to preparedness and being ready on the day of your shoot, we have Nicole here, who was the DP that day and a very good friend of mine. Nicole, you're obviously working on set a lot more than I am. I'm obviously shooting out in the environment at events, games, etc. So is most of my audience. Can you just give us a little bit of an idea of how important it was on this day, and even leading up to the shoot, the prep that was involved?
When I think about prep, I think about two things, like how are we creatively prepping the concept, and then how are we logistically prepping? So like actually rigging fixtures and like getting the gear prepped. So our creative prep was super important. Finding reference images, frame set was probably a huge one, but also you take from like Twitter and IG and
just
like
content I find,
content you find. So that kind of prep is actually built into you as a creative, because you're constantly prepping, like unconsciously you're absorbing and thinking about, oh, if I see this reference, like how could I
might save that for the future for a rainy day.
Exactly. So that kind of like prep is subconscious and like spans a really long period of time. But then actually getting down and nailing the concept that we did on Milano, and just having all the reference images together and understanding how can we not like shrink the scope, but like land on a certain idea. So when you have all of that figured out, that's when you can translate it into logistics. And that's like the DP's kind of job, is to say, okay, if this is the creative direction, how can I actually execute this with the amount of time and like resources that we have? And so with prep, that was a super key part to this. And
we went above and beyond it.
We really did, but I think like more prep is better, because
we had the time, thankfully.
We had the time, exactly. So what we ended up doing was we first scouted it, like this location I've been to numerous times before. We've both shot here before.
This is Viva Studios, by the way, if I didn't mention it earlier, here in Toronto. If you guys are looking for a studio or you're going to rent gear, shout out Viva for letting us use the space. But
yes, we were able to use the space, but we were also able to use their equipment. And so with being familiar with the equipment and the location on my part, it was very like easy or like intuitive. I knew kind of what they had available. I knew how big the space was, and I was like, yeah, you know what? This is probably the best location for this shoot. And also, like, I know the guys at Viva, and I just wanted to like give them business. And it's really good for them too. We scouted, but we also did a full prep day of like looking at all the lights and seeing like what lights we could
set up a camera.
We set up a camera to see exactly like how the lights were playing. And even during that prep day, we were still like, I think that's when we thought about like the Mylar. Like the Mylar was I think such a last minute call where I was like, you know what, like let me just order it off Amazon. It'll get here in 2 days. And we were like, you know what, okay, perfect. Let's shoot the spotlight through that, bounce some like air, like we had a little fan and
it just
made
shimmered,
the Mylar shimmer. So
we were kind of under the gun. We had a week to prep this, and so we were just like any opportunity we could to get here. And then the night before our prep day, we were here doing what you just talked about, experimenting, trying things out. And then we had our actual prep day where we had our gaffer, we had our grip.
We also had behind the scenes.
We had behind the scenes
we'll show all of that
of us actually building the set, because that's a big thing too. And especially if you're doing a media day, is make sure you at least take time, if you can, to prep the day or the night before. Prepping the morning of, if you really have to, is one of the most stressful experiences ever. The fact that we were able to come here, have pretty much 90% of the set ready to go, was a huge lifesaver, because we only really had an hour or two in the morning before players started arriving. So we had like 2 or 3 days where we were in here experimenting, seeing what would work, conceptualizing, and then when it came to the prep day, I was able to tell Will, our gaffer, like, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to plan it. We even took time to draw on my iPad and I'll throw up the sketcher.
Oh, yeah.
We threw this really janky sketch. It's janky's the only way. Like, we drew a grid and drew like stick figures of where the players were and what lights are going to be on them.
Yeah.
To then look up to the grid in the studio and build that per se. And I think just going through that process of literally hand drawing something, it came to life. And like when you see the sketch and you see what we did, you can see how it worked out.
Yep.
My second piece of advice, and this is a really big one I've learned over the last few years, if you have the ability to bring on a team, work with a team. Now, I've done a lot of solo media days and they are a really great experience. I did a lot of them by myself when I was working in college athletics and I learned a lot. But I also realized how stressful and hectic it can be to be that one-man band who has to handle everything from the production side of things, scheduling, lighting, camera, directing, etc., etc. It's a lot for just one person to handle. The difference though, when you're able to put a team together to shoot a media day like this, the more hands on deck you have is almost night and day difference from doing it solo. Even if you have the budget or the ability just to bring 1 or 2 extra hands, you're gonna save so much time, and I guarantee you will also see a huge difference in the production level from when you were doing it solo from when you were doing it with a team of people. If I was to show you the difference in the media day shoots that I ran solo versus the ones I ran alongside a team, you will definitely notice a massive production quality difference across the board. For the PWHL Media Day, as the director, my job was not to handle the camera, was not to set up lights, was not to schedule anything for athletes or whatnot. My only main role that day is to A, make sure we get the shots we need to get, B, make sure that we're achieving the overall vision and creative direction that we had when we set out to do the project, and C, making sure it's aligned with our producer and the client in general. I didn't have to touch the camera, I didn't have to touch lights, I didn't have to worry about scheduling, and you can notice it in the quality of the product and how good everything looks by having a team of people dedicated to specific roles. We were able to achieve much more than what we expected, and we had a very happy client at the end of the day. And with a shoot like this, which is paid and there's pressure behind it, making sure the client is happy with the outcome is the most important thing. And the client, in a lot of cases, will be the sports team that you are working for. I know it can be very scary at first to give up some of this control to a team, especially if you've never built a team for a project like this before. But I'll say this right now, if you can align everyone on the same goals and objectives you have, if you have a passionate team behind you, you will be very, very thankful. Everyone in this PWHL shoot was aligned, knew what the goal was, and was very, very, very helpful from start to finish. Even though it ended up being a bit of a long day, having everyone on the same page ended up resulting in what we were able to get that day. I do want to give a special shout out to a few people. I will have the entire crew list down below. If you guys are looking to hire people, go get these people, all very talented. But a special shout out to Nicole, my DP, who you saw earlier in the video, Akeem, who was the producer and our direct contact with the PWHL Toronto, and also our gaffer, Will, who is an absolute god with lighting. Without these people and everyone down below, this day would not be possible. Don't hesitate. If you can bring a team for your media day, do it. You will save yourself some gray hairs and you will get a much better product at the end of the day. Media day tip number 3, light faces, not just spaces. My favorite part of media days, for as long as I can remember, is the opportunity to get creative and try different things when it comes to set design and lighting. When I got my first set of Nanlite Pavo tubes, I wanted to throw those on every background I ever did, and it can just be really exciting to have all this creative freedom to create a cool looking set. But the biggest mistake I see in these situations is that people spend a lot of time focusing on how they're going to create and light a background, but not enough time on how they're actually going to light their subject. The main purpose of a media day, content day, is to create marketing material featuring your athletes, to introduce them and familiarize them with your audience. And you can't really do that if they're not lit properly, and if you can't make out their faces. The whole purpose of it kind of goes out the window. Like I said, I know it's really exciting to create a cool set and lighting backdrop for your athletes to be in front of, but make sure you have something in front of them that's lighting them for at least 1 to 2 shots. I want to be able to see their face. I want to be able to see, their equipment and the branding on their jersey. You want to be able to identify them. At the end of the day, this media day, as much as it is a place for you to flex your creative abilities, it's for showcasing the athletes and the team and the brand. And if you're not lighting their face, you're not really achieving that at all. That being said though, if you have the time, don't be afraid to do more creative lighting setups. We did it with the PWHL Media Day. We messed around with different silhouette looks. We backlit athletes. We had a spotlight type look going around. We even did this shimmer effect with having some light reflecting off some Mylar. But That all came after we made sure we had those 1 to 2 shots with the athletes properly lit, because at the end of the day, you want to showcase the athletes and not showcase the set. Remember that on your next media day. Media day tip number 4, a shot list is a non-negotiable. Now, I know shooting sports is very run and gun, and we're kind of always like flying by the seat of our pants when we're shooting sports, and the shot list isn't something we're used to, but I'll tell you this right now. If you're going to walk onto your media day set with no shot list in mind, you are asking for trouble. Media days are not a place for you to around and find out, because most cases you only get one of these a year where all the athletes are at the disposal of you and your creative team, and you want to make sure you're efficient with your time and you're getting consistent content and the same shots with every single athlete. A lot of the times you will not get a second shot at this, so make sure you come prepared. If you only take one of these tips from this video to your next media day, make it this one. Having a shot list for your media day is one of the most important and non-negotiable things you can have ahead of you stepping on set. Have a set list of shots that you absolutely cannot leave without, whether it's 5 shots, 6 shots, whatever, and make sure you get them with every single athlete that walks onto your set. Depending on the time that you have with each athlete, like I said, you can aim to have anywhere from like 3 to 6 shots or 3 to 4 shots. I think 3 to 4 shots is like a really good medium to have in your pocket ready to go. And if you end up having extra time after, I like to do what's called dealer's choice, which, if given the opportunity, are just kind of any extra shot ideas or things that might come up in the moment for you to try that didn't fit in your main selection. But just make sure you have like those 3 to 4 main shots with every athlete in the bag ready to go, because when someone's editing this piece later, when someone's working with this content, having similar shots with each athlete is very important. Your editor, whether it's yourself or someone else, will thank you for having a shot list and having consistent shots with each athlete. Trust me, as someone who has edited media day footage in the past and is still doing it, it is very helpful when I have that shot list and I know exactly what I'm going to get with each athlete. Pro tip for this: if you're able to slate each athlete when they come in with a clapper, huge help. When we were doing this PWHL shoot, we had someone slate every single athlete in every single take we did, and when I edited our director's reel, it was really handy to see in Premiere Pro with the thumbnails, the name and the shot of each athlete, so I didn't have to go hunting for it. I could just go in, I know that this is Sarah Nurse and this was her B-cam gimbal shot, and it was just really helpful as an editor. So if you have the ability to slate all of your shots, it will save you a lot of time in post later. My 5th media day tip for you guys is to make sure you are adhering to your team's branding when developing your idea. Similarly to making sure your athletes are properly lit, making sure you're adhering to your team's brand and guidelines is incredibly important, especially when you're in the pre-production phase of your media day prep. I know that the possibilities for being creative are endless in these scenarios, but you want everything to make sense. You want to make sure that it identifies your team at first glance. If your team colors are blue and white, make sure your lights and your set reflect that blue and white motive. If their team colors are orange and black, make sure that the set reflects that orange and black color scheme. Don't just throw in a green light or a purple set piece because you think it looks cool. Make sure everything in your set is cohesive and makes actual sense in relation to the team and the brand the marketing material is for. Intentionality with your media day setup is very important. Just make sure you're being cohesive with the team branding and messaging. With a lot of professional media day content, you will be able to identify pretty quickly what team it is just by looking at the set. You may not even need to see a jersey or an athlete in frame, and that's just because the people who worked on that had the team brand and identity in mind, and it creates a much better product. So when you're developing your next media day, try to figure out what identifies your team from a brand standpoint and use that in your process to get a much better result. My 6th and final piece of advice for how you can crush your next media day is this: leave your ego at the door. This goes along with my earlier point about working with a team, but media days, first and foremost, are a collaborative environment. And the more you're able to be open to working with others, the more you're able to be open to feedback and putting your ego aside and understanding that this is much bigger than just you and your creative skill set, the smoother of an experience you'll have, the better product you'll create, and the more effective you'll be alongside the people around you. Keeping your ego at the door also contributes to a very positive environment, something I pride myself in doing almost every single media day I've been a part of. I want people to feel welcome, I want people to feel energized and excited, and I want people to provide ideas and value. And this good energy, these good vibes aren't just good for you and your crew, but they're good for anyone actually attending your set that day, whether it's team staff or the athletes as well. Especially for the athletes, these are days that are a little bit weird and awkward and can be very long days for them, so making sure you're giving them good vibes once they arrive is a really important thing to get the best results from them when they're on your set. The PWHL Media Day is a perfect great example of this. Everyone left their ego at the door. Everyone was receptive. Everyone was open for ideas. No one was afraid of stepping on toes. And I literally told everyone at the start of the day, hey, if you have a cool idea for a shot, don't worry about overstepping. Just pull me aside or say, hey, I think this would look good and we can try it out. And that really took away a lot of the anxiety that people were feeling that day. Everyone from camera to lighting was very receptive to different ideas and collaborating together, because at the end of the day, we all wanted the same result, and it was a really fun experience and one of the most fun sets I've ever been a part of. So the last point here about leaving the ego at the door and bringing back Nicole, because this is collaborative environments are something that you and I really pride ourselves on. We've worked on a number of projects together, sports related. I've helped you out on commercials. We've done music videos. We've done a lot of things, and work. I think you and I have grown a lot in terms of working with other people and understanding the importance, because we both started off as like solo filmmaker, content creators, but now we're on set, for example, with the PWHL Media Day with like 6, 7, 8 other people.
Yeah.
And there's a really big thing here about like wanting to learn from each other and wanting to work together. Can you talk to me about your perspective about when you're on set, leaving your ego at the door and being open to learning and working with other people collaboratively?
Yeah, so in our next video, I think, or one of the videos in this series, we actually talk about how being from the like commercial cinematography side and stepping into the sport world, you absolutely have to bring your skill set, but you can't like make it the whole thing. Like, you have to understand that there is a gaffer involved, there is a creative director involved, there is a client involved. Like, all of these parties have equal creative rights, in my opinion, to the vision. Especially
because it's a paid project. The client is important too, like their vision and what they want. We could have made that purple.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have liked that because that's not the team color. But we might be like, purple looks way better than blue. But like, no, it doesn't work like that. So you have to like give and take a little bit.
Yeah, actually, so you're right. I'll retract kind of a little bit what I said. There is a hierarchy to that. So like, the client is absolutely number one.
Especially if it's paid.
Specifically when it's paid. They have the entire creative freedom. Now, when they kind of gave us like a really blank slate to work with, like there were references given of, and
there were shots specifically needed for specific reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And like an overall vibe was definitely given of like what type of, like how extravagant we might be able to go with this kind of shoot. But the client is number one. And because we had a little bit of freedom, that's kind of where we as the team can collaborate together. And I remember asking Will, like, are there certain special, I don't know, tricks or like concepts that you want to try out lighting wise that you haven't been able to try out? And that like we were able to just have open conversations and see like what are things that you want to bring to the table or want to try out, because we have the ability of like a clean slate of a cyc wall. Like, what do we do? It's very important, because as soon as there is a little bit of ego, that's when things can rub and things can not feel so friendly anymore. And it's really like, when it comes down to it, we're shooting content for a media day. Like, I think whenever I feel ego come, and I can feel it sometimes, like everybody has it. And as soon as it shows itself, it's like, oh, okay, hold on. Let's bring it back down to earth. You gotta check yourself, but it's like, it's not that deep.
And it's also, everyone's learning.
Yeah.
We're all learning. Like, I think you and I are always very much preaching, like, where you always want to learn from other people and learn from each other. And like, even though like in this hierarchy, like, there's like the client and the producer, and then like you could put the director and the DP right next to each other. Like, there are certain things, like when we talk about in another video, like that I didn't necessarily think would look good, but I, trusted her. And I'm like, okay, you know what? You're the DP. Like, I trust what you want to do. And when it came to the dolly, I wasn't sure at first. Yeah. So it's just, again, trusting each other and understanding that like everyone at the end of the day wants to see success in this project. Like, that's my thing.
We all have the same end goal.
We all have the same end goal of making this work. And like, I don't want to let my ego of like, I'm the director, this is my vision. That's not going to work that way, because like, even though you have a vision, you still need other people to achieve it. And I think the other thing is like, at the end of the day, when I was on set, like I said to everyone, like, look, if there's something you want to try, if there's something you see, tell me. Don't tell. And they're not telling me because I'm an idiot and I didn't see it. It's because everyone has a different perspective on these things. And like, if there's a shot that looks really good and I didn't see it and someone says it, it's way better for the project overall. At the end of the day, it's like for the benefit of the project, everything we do. And yeah, even though in the room I'm the sports guy, I'm not the working in a studio guy. You know, I bring the experience of working in this industry, knowing what's good, knowing what will translate well in the environment. But I don't know anything about hanging a fixture on a roof and the mechanics of, you know, how light will bounce in a certain way with the Mylar. Like, you know, so you got to give and take and understand, like, stay in your lane and allow other people to drive around when you need to as well.
Yeah, and you said something that I want to touch on too, where if you maybe don't see it, it's sure in a way more relaxed environment, maybe on a spec project, like maybe you would have seen it, but because this is like paid too, there are certain like expectations and like other tasks that you're thinking about where maybe the experimental side isn't on. You know what I mean? Like you're like, okay,
tunnel vision.
I've done this before. I know that it works. Like, let me just do this. But if you're open and like allowing other people to contribute their ideas, like it only just makes the job better and easier too, because you have like the mental load of someone else contributing. Like you didn't actually have to think about it, you know? So
absolutely.
it's actually like to your benefit. Strongly believe in that. And I think it just makes for overall a beautiful set. It makes for great
Positive
vibes
experience.
and like everybody just wants to work together again. Like it's fun.
I think the thing I'll finish this off with, and this is like synonymous in sports, commercial, narrative, documentary, wedding, whatever you want to do creatively with a camera, be a nice person. Like just be a good human being that you want to work with. Like, you know, you and I have our own experiences working with people who haven't been very pleasant or rubbed us the wrong way. And like, you know, could we have brought them on something like this? And I'm not talking about anyone specifically, but I'm just saying, like, wanting to work with people comes down to enjoying being on set with them. And like at the end of the day, like I know a lot of DPs. I know a lot of really talented people that aren't Nicole, but me and Nicole have a really good working relationship. We have a good friendship already, and that makes me way more, you know, open to when I have a budget or when a project like this is presented to either of us, I'm gonna go to you first, even though like, let's just say you don't have like the camera the other person has.
Yeah.
I'd still much rather work with you because I know you and I will listen to each other. We'll be very like asynchronous in the experience, and it'll be much better than me getting XYZ person who might have a $50,000 rig, but I can't really work with because they don't want to listen to my ideas.
Yeah.
So just being a good person, being personable and friendly will be a much better experience overall, and it'll just allow you to build those relationships down the line.
Yeah.
Also, make sure you bring a speaker and play good music. Music will always be key for good vibes, especially on those long days. Bonus tip number 7, less isn't necessarily a bad thing. I really want to quickly touch on this because I know you're seeing the set we did with the PWHL Media Day, and it's really intricate, and probably a lot of the other Media Day sets have crazy set design and unbelievable setups and just budget that you may not have, and it can be really disheartening. But I'll tell you right now, you can do a lot with very little as long as you have the ability to bring at least 1 or 2 lights to create a unique looking setup for your athletes. When I started doing these Media Days by myself in college, at times it would literally just be me with 1 overhead dome light with a softbox and then like 1 or 2 bar lights in the background. And as long as I was creative with how I set up those lights and had control of the lighting in the room, I got some pretty good results. So don't be discouraged because you don't have the budget for a giant LED wall or a massive cyclorama or whatever you may want. Sometimes if you just have access to a locker room or a gymnasium or a rink or whatever and have a few lights, that is more than enough, and it can look really good if you know how to set up a light properly. Hopefully you guys learned something in this video that you can bring into your next Media Day setup. I know every single time I do one, I learn something new, and I'm always more prepared and excited for the next one. And remember, if you're working with people, learn from them as well. I learned so much from having this experience with the PWHL and the people around me. One of the most fun Media Days I've ever been on, but also one of the ones I've learned the most from what we experienced to the people around me. These are all learning experiences, but they're also supposed to be fun. So don't be afraid to get creative and really enjoy the process of doing one of these Media Days. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing and liking down below, as I would really appreciate it. And stay tuned for more behind the scenes on this series. The next video should be releasing on Nicole's channel tomorrow. Her channel will be linked down below, so stay tuned for that. We have a lot of behind the scenes that we want to bring to you guys about this project that we're really excited to share. So make sure you're checking in, and also subscribe to her, let her know I sent you, and give her some love on her videos as well. And that does it for me today, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy, guys.